Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley, brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network, Icarus FC, Roughneck Scarves, and Natural Beauty Spa. I hate to say this, but this is the end of the season, guys. It's over for RGV. Although technically, and as much as the season itself sucked for the team, it's just hard to think that we're not going to see these players out there on the pitch anymore for a while. I just wanted to post it out there because I feel like that is the overall sentiment of some of the fans. But I do want to let y'all know and thank y'all for tuning in today. Don't forget, be sure if you guys are liking this show, be sure to give it a like, give it a thumbs up, down there. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new here. If you guys are new here, obviously, welcome to Down in the Valley. Hope you enjoy the RGVFC talk that we have here on the show. Also, be sure to share the stream with all of your Toros friends, and don't forget also to post your comments, your questions on the YouTube chat or on Periscope as well. We have speaking of, hold on, I actually forgot to, where are you? I actually forgot to, open up the viewer, where the viewer for the chat from Periscope, and here it is. So on OBS, I have it. There's a little doc that shows me all of the chat messages that are posted on YouTube and on Periscope as we are live, and that way I'll be able to keep track, but be able to post anything there. We'll try to get to it if we have time. Just like we've always said, this is not only our show, this is also your show as the fans. This is a platform for you to voice your opinions, voice your concerns about the team that we all love, RGVFC Toros. But today we are going to have an interesting chat. We're going to be talking about, obviously, the match that happened last week against OKC Energy. And then we're just going to go straight to it. We're going to actually talk about the whole roster and in our opinions, who stays for next season and who has to go find another team. So for that, we've brought our good friend of the show, Ray Silva of South Texas Border Sports. Ray, how are you doing?
Hello, Edson. Good to see you once again virtually. I know you've been having some fun times up there in Houston. I'm looking forward to this conversation of should you stay or should you go? There's a little rock and roll song with that. Yeah, I know. SMH. Facepalm, yes.
Devil facepalm. Anyway, but yeah, and you guys are more than welcome also as well in the chat. Once we go into that section, in order to give the opinions. But let's go ahead and jump right into the topics in hand today. So last Saturday, man, I feel like time is like all wonky,
Yes.
But last Saturday, RGVFC played their last game at home and for the season as well. Against OKC Energy. If you guys remember from last week, I don't remember what you said, Ray, but I personally did not have any high hopes for RGVFC to get a win, much less a win in the way that they ended up getting this win with a 4-2 win over OKC. But not only, it being a high-scoring game, but the dominance that RGV had over over OKC Energy.
to be honest with you, this was like the one team that I thought we had a good chance of beating. Would both teams score? Yes. Did I expect this dominance? Absolutely not. But I did expect our team to beat OKC only because they had a they just brought enough players to make the five subs, okay? And they used all five subs.
I did see that after the game.
So kudos to RGB for just sticking to their game plan and actually executing all facets of that game plan, whatever it may have been.
Hmm.
You know, and as I was taking the elevator up to the media area, I ran into the OKC coach. And he did confirm that Ward was done for the season for with a calf injury, and I had told him that how he's a legend down here in the valley with all of the fans and the Stampede and whatnot. The first class man, real humble guy, and once the game started and once we got that early goal, I'm like, okay, less than 10 minutes in, we scored, and then what's always been a Toros tradition, we can't hold the lead for no more than 10 minutes,
Hmm.
and it would be like one of those slow burning wood logs. Like, okay, when is it the intensity on this going to pick up? Sure enough, OKC equalized within 10 minutes. I want to say it was 6 minutes after we opened up the scoring, and then new guy Juan Carlos Azocar. Bienvenido al Valle, welcome to the Valley. He got his first goal in. It was quite awesome to see and feel the atmosphere of the Stampede now. That certainly played a bigger difference, being them there, beating the drums and whatnot. That made the game quite more fascinating, and seeing all the orange smoke go up after each goal.
Hmm.
So that made the game that much more colorful. And then uh, you had the lone score by
Amico, no.
Amico, the own goal. Yes, I mean I didn't get a glimpse of how it went in. I thought it would have been a Beckford goal, honestly,
So
but
the
I
way,
didn't. But I did not have the benefit of a replay
yeah.
because
So
the
basically,
ones.
what happened was when Deshane Beckford takes the shot after C.J. Cochran collides with his own defender. By the way, lack of communication right there between both players. But when he takes the shot, Amico slides at the goal line and deflects that ball towards the crossbar. The ball hits the crossbar and it bounces back out toward, not inside the goal but outside, and that's where it hits Amico and goes inside. So that is what allowed, or that kind of proof allowed the referees to call this an own goal rather than a Deshane Beckford goal.
Yeah, I mean, all I saw was the players just running and hugging and celebrating. Uh, but when I tried to look at replay, I'm like, no. I'm just gonna try to give it to Beckford at this point. But I mean, Beckford played a real important part of the game.
Yeah.
He did well for himself. Was very active up front, so yeah, he performed quite well. I mean, he would have gotten a 7 out of 10 in my books for performance wise.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, it was a mostly RGV dominated game, if I do recall correctly from watching some tidbits of the match, or at least the most important opportunities came from RGVFC, which meant that the team was not resting on their laurels in attempting to just hold on to the lead, but rather try to extend it, which is always welcome, in my book. Um, they ended up scoring once again at the 67th minute by an authentic golazo by Juan Carlos Obregón. By the way, before I talk about that goal, I do want to mention something. What a beautiful crosser from the set pieces Cello has gotten. It seems like how many in the past couple of weeks, how many goals have we seen from an assist off of a set piece from Cello? I know there was one a couple of weeks ago against Tulsa, the one that ended at 3 a.m. That Castigo was assisted by Rob Core, but it was off as a set piece play, from it. And then you had the goal against Austin with Kyle Edwards, and then you've got this one against OKC.
To be honest, off the last 6-7 goals that the team has scored, I want to say he's played a part in at least 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
In at least 3 of those goals where he's had like a beautiful service put in play to set up the actual goal.
Yeah.
And let's give credit, a lot of credit here to Kambo Kibato, who's matured his played a little bit, specifically against OKC. He gets a 9 out of 10 rating for the way he played. I mean, he tackled, he won his duels, provided two beautiful dimes to Edwards and to Obregon, because he had that final assist touch per se when they're awarding an assist to goal.
Correct. Yeah, Kambo has been outstanding these last 2 matches, and I talked about it last week. It seemed like the midfield has kind of found their stride, have kind of found the perfect combination to be able to take advantage of the situation and give the midfield that much needed stability, not only while defending, but also when building on the attack, because it seems like it's very fluid. And we saw it in the fact that Kambo Kibato is technically the more defensive midfielder out of the 3, out of James Murphy, out of Kambo, and out of Cello. And this past game, he got 2 assists, which means that it seems like they alternate to in that defensive role, or once they see that their opponent really they're not being very dangerous up on top, well, they kind of have a little bit more freedom to go out there and attack. But this version of RGVFC, I definitely like. Talked about it last week. The dynamic that Kyle Edwards, that Obregon, or Deshane Beckford, and Juan Carlos Azocar brings to this top line of 3, I think gave a really a second breath of fresh air to RGV. It's a shame that we only saw it for two games out of the whole season.
And it's a shame that we didn't have Kyle Edwards much longer.
So, Coach, mentioned about Kyle Edwards, and I know we've talked about it before, but I do want to kind of allow us to remind you why we didn't see a lot of Kyle Edwards, throughout more of the season. So, Coach, multiple times during press conferences, mentioned that while he does enjoy seeing Kyle Edwards play, he likes his style. Kyle Edwards had a problem, especially earlier in the season, when it came to fitness. And in fact, in the last, even against San Antonio, before this whole COVID thing happened, he could not play the full 90 minutes because he just wasn't fit enough to be able to do so. And so herein lies the problem of, having to use Garrett McLaughlin in the lineup as the starter because Kyle Edwards wasn't ready for an extended amount of time, So it seems like Kyle Edwards has gotten better in that aspect. We'll get to that in a little bit, Jordy. He asked about what happened to Castellanos. So, but we'll get to it in a little bit after we touch upon it. But yeah, definitely enjoyed. Like I said, I think something defensively there can be some, moments of where they kind of lose their concentration. But I think in this one, even with the 2 goals, I don't think we saw glaring errors from the defense. I mean, the second goal for OKC was a beautiful set piece shot from it is Jonathan Brown, and there really wasn't nothing that Kyle Eine could have done to save it. So,
all you can do as a goalie is just clap your hands.
Yeah, or just throw yourself for the photo at least. Just make that goal just more beautiful for the fans and for the highlight reel. But overall, that was pretty much it in regards to the season. Just an overall recap. It's been problem after problem after problem. That really the Dynamo, there was really not much they can do, and what they did, I still feel like it came in late. Bringing in of Ian Hoffman, bringing in Juan Carlos Azócar. It is additions that helped the team a lot, but at the end of the season. So it's like, yeah, thanks. And then with Juan Carlos Azócar being alone only for 2020, it's like, wow, like. So I hope to, and I might be getting ahead of myself, but I hope to that at least his loan gets renewed for the 2021 season, because I think he's a really good addition.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, I just hope that loan gets prolonged at least one more year, like they did with the Shane Beckford.
Yeah. So Jordy had asked, what happened to Castellanos. I'm assuming he's talking about the last 2 games, why he did not show up, not even to the bench. I don't think, Ray, I know you were there at the press conferences for extended periods of time. Was that ever mentioned by Coach Echeverri?
No, in fact, we never even brought it upon because they're W's, and quite frankly, that was a subject that I did see him in street clothing in both games, where they had a suite to the players who weren't in the game bench. They were across the field. They had them in a suite, like away from the action. And of course, if they ever wanted something, they would have to walk all the way around. But I never asked upon as to exactly what happened with Castellanos, and then there were some other players too that didn't make the team 18, but it was never brought up.
The only thing that was mentioned before that Austin Bold match, and that was because Brenda Gonzalez had asked if Coach Echeverri was going to have a full roster. And Coach Echeverri said they were not going to have a full roster. And so it is kind of interesting, if it was an injury, if it was related to the virus, we do not know. And even if we asked if it was, I'm pretty sure if it was the virus due to
a HIPAA loss.
Although I was reading that only pertains to doctors and nurses, the people in the medical field. That's what HIPAA pertains to. But I know he did actually mention. He said, when Brenda asked the question, he said, I'm not going to have a full roster, but I can't say who's going to be out due to HIPAA loss. So just leaving it out there. Y'all take your own
stabs in the dark, as they say.
Pretty much. I mean, that's what was on the record about it. Y'all are, I think y'all can make y'all can infer based on that information, and that's the only thing that we know. Was Castellanos affected? I'm not sure. Probably not, due to the fact that at the games he was wearing street clothes. He was there. Maybe maybe an injury that they were trying to kind of protect him from or make sure like he didn't fall back in. We don't know about it officially.
And and here's one of the other things to take also into consideration. He may have been one of the few players that may have played all the team's minutes this season. So maybe there could have been a little bit of a fatigue factor set in, and maybe a small injury could have caught up to him. But again, I mean, well, I never received an official word on Castellanos, but he did seem upbeat for those two victories. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and we cannot and we can't say that Castellanos never gave his 100% for this team. He was pretty much the only one that was consistently 100% there for the team, giving it as 100% like throughout the whole season. So I think at this point it was just a precaution or something for him not to play. Now Jordy asks another question, and I think it kind of helps lead us to the next segment that we do have prepared for you all. He says, how many players do you think will stay? Since the Dynamo controls the soccer side of the team, do you think they will push out the players that have been there for 2 to 3 years? Let me just say, you are 100% correct on that second statement. You look at the last couple of years, that's exactly what's happened. Those players that are been there for 2-3 years and are not good enough in the eyes of Matt Jordan and the head coach at the time, Wilmer Cabrera, to make it to the Dynamo first team, will be released from the team and will sign with another team, because I think their USL handles short contracts, maybe like like one
short
with
term.
It's usually 1 year and an option for another.
Yep.
Okay.
Usually the option year goes to the club.
Mm-hmm. And so that's basically how the Dynamo has worked this system. So, but we will be talking about that. What we're going to be doing right now is both of us are going to be going player by player from the roster. And we are going to mention, if personally we would like to see him come back, or if we would like for him to go find another club, So, but I will say, Jordy, that in the eyes of the Houston Dynamo, if you're there for 2-3 years and you're still not good enough for MLS, they're not coming back. Even if they might be the best player. We saw that with Todd Warden last year or the year before. Actually, the year before.
That with Charlie Ward?
Charlie Ward. No, well, Charlie Ward made it to the Dynamo. But Todd Warden was never given an opportunity to sign a Dynamo first-team contract, even though he was arguably the best player we had back in 2017. So that's basically what's going to be happening. So the way this is going to work, Ray, do you have the list of the roster in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So we are going to be going down player by player, and we are going to give our arguments as to whether they'll stay or whether they go. And this is our personal opinion from what we've seen. Obviously, Matt Jordan and Coach Echeverri and Tab Ramos are going to might have like a completely different viewpoint, a completely different opinion as what we have. But and that's what the opinion that matters the most. But us as fans, us that watch the games week in and week out, and what we want, the higher standard that we want this team to play at, then we do. This is going to be our opinion. I think it's going to be a quick, good little exercise to have. So, what's going to happen is, I have a couple of sounds. So, Ray's going to give his arguments. He'll say yes or no, and then I'll go in. I'll play the sound of which, and you guys are probably going to know if it's a yes or a no. And if we are both in agreement with the player that he needs to leave, then I've got a special surprise for you all, as far as the sound effect goes. So Ray, let's go ahead and start with the first player on this list, and we're going by goalkeepers for now. Ryan Coulter.
Player coach had a couple of games in him.
Just one.
Just one. Although I could have made an argument he should have started another, especially at home. I think he'll be retained as goalkeepers coach.
Okay. I think
but to be a second choice keeper or perhaps a third, no. As a coach, yes.
Okay, for me, yes. I think he'll stay because he is player coach. But I would like to see for him to just stay as a coach, not necessarily a player.
Okay.
Because I think what we need are dedicated players in case we do need a backup to go up, and not necessarily putting a backup goalkeeper that really hasn't 100% focused on his efforts to try to be playing rather than actually coaching the other goalkeepers to prepare themselves for the match. So I think we've talked about Ryan Coulter. Second one on the list, Paul Blanchett. Right.
He goes.
Okay.
He goes. Simple. I mean, I like Blanchett. He makes some very, very interesting saves, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, he goes. I'm sorry. I saw enough sample size of the season that I just can't. I can't keep him. I mean, arguments are there that he makes the difficult saves easy, but the easy ones, I have a glitch.
I think for me, and it's simple. We cannot rely on Paul Blanchett 100% of the time. When we need him the most, he failed us. Like I said, it could be something of psychological in him that probably is a situation, and I hope he gets better with that. But at the end of the day, we need our starting goalkeeper to be 100% focused and not make the silly mistakes that he has made, and some things that are the basics in goalkeeping. So for me, he's got to go, and because we are both in agreement that he's got to go. All right. So.
El chacal de la trompeta.
Exactly. So Ben Willis, he is probably not going to be back, and he was out for the whole season, which sucks. We really wanted to see more of him. So obviously there's no sample size, there. Given the situation, how this is going to be handled, and the way the injury happened, I don't think he's coming back. I do think he is going to find another team outside of RGV, maybe in the USL Championship. We don't know, but we know the small sample size from 2019 season. I think he's good, but even then, that sample size was extremely small to get a good idea on how well Ben Willis is as a goalkeeper. So too small of a sample size. I don't know what you think, Ray, but I do think he is not coming back.
I want to be on the same boat with you. But I mean, oh my, this is a really tough one, only because I think he goes. He got hurt extremely. He got hurt extremely early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
He goes. I'm sorry. I mean, there's just no way to justify his return. There really isn't.
We appreciate the guy. The guy is awesome. In the human
first
aspect.
Class.
He is. He's a top-notch person, and I would love for him to stay. As a backup goalkeeper, But knowing how the Dynamo deals with the situation and with the fact that he's injured, I don't think he's coming back. But moving on, Kyle Eine. He came into RGVFC on a short-term loan from OKC Energy. He was the third keeper for OKC Energy. So, Ray.
I think he stays as the backup keeper for some odd reason. Because remember, the team did give up an international slot. So, I feel that I think he stays as a backup keeper.
You think they'll renew his loan, or you think they'll actually purchase him?
Something tells me yes, for some odd reason. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm allowed to be wrong, but this is like the one guy who I'll take a gamble on.
Okay. Kyle Eine, for me, I think he gave this defense the confidence they needed in these last two games. Against San Antonio, I think the whole team was just shaky to begin with, and in the goals, I honestly think that he was left out to dry by the defensive mistakes that the defense made against San Antonio. I don't think this was Kyle Eine's fault compared to the instances where it was Paul Blanchet's fault that we got scored on. However, it is a small sample size as well. He only played 3 games, but from what I saw, he's definitely better than Blanchet. I don't know if he's better than Michael Nelson. So to me, if we gave up an international slot for him to get that loan for 3 days, leads me to believe they might want to get him back, or at least to make that 2020 international slot worthwhile for the Toros. So, but honestly, I would keep him. I would keep him as that French backup first and starter goalkeeper, depending on who gets sent down from the Dynamo, hopefully in 2021. So, I would keep him. Okay. All right. Now we move on.
We're batting okay so far. We're batting okay so far with the keepers.
Mm-hmm. All right. So
now let's move on.
On the list, you do see Nelson, Cody Cropper, but those two are the Dynamo keepers. They were never sent down due to COVID. Jordy says, hopefully Michael Nelson can be the number 1 for next year. By the way, Jordy, welcome to the Down in the Valley show. We're glad that you're here, and hopefully you can stick around in the future. And we appreciate all of the feedback that you're giving us through the chat. So, but welcome to the Down in the Valley channel. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe, and click on that little bell you see right next to the subscribe button. Click on it. You'll get notifications every time we're live or anytime we upload anything to the channel, and that goes to everybody as well. He did also say before, he said maybe things under Tab will change since he has given minutes to Jungkwa and Lemoyne, who did decent to mediocre down in RGV. So there's that possibility too, that Top Ramos would change. But at the end of the day, the guy who has right now the biggest control over that is definitely Matt Jordan. However, Matt Jordan, his contract ends in December, and there hasn't been any news of a potential extension. So that could change, by the time January comes, once they actually start making roster moves around that time, late January, early February. So will remain to be seen what kind of changes will be brought into this relationship between the Houston Dynamo and RGVFC. Hopefully it's for the better, like I've said many, many times on this show.
Again, that goes against my core values to even talk about that.
It goes against the core values of America.
Easy now. Easy, Tiger.
It's funny because Trump mentioned core values on the debate, no. and I was like, did he just become Matt Jordan all of a sudden?
Oh
Because I don't.
my.
Okay, so a little bit of a backstory to everybody who's watching. So I live in Houston, right? And Glenn Davis, who is the official announcer or the official play-by-play commentator for the Houston Dynamo, he has a show here. In fact, they're actually live right now. But he has a show here on ESPN Radio called Soccer Matters, and Matt Jordan, the only time he goes out in public is on the Soccer Matters show. And every time they ask him, about the Houston Dynamo stuff or what kind of signings they look for, he always mentions, well, he has to fit the core values of the organization. He never explains what core values are or anything like that. So that's why I always kind of make fun of that core values thing. But
Even I recently have been on a pretty good run on Twitter with that statement.
You are, and it's freaking hilarious. So Santos says, I just want to know why Edwards didn't start more games. He's fast and shoots at goal. We did mention it a little while ago. You were probably not here, but basically Coach Echeverry mentioned that Kyle Edwards was struggling at early in the season and throughout the season in regards to fitness. He's very talented, but he was struggling with fitness. He could not finish the 90 minutes. I think there was a game. Was it at Tulsa I think it was at Tulsa.
Yes.
Where he had to be subbed out at the 60th minute, and he was like panting and like extremely tired. So it was not until the end where I guess he kind of got his fitness back together so he could last longer on the pitch. But that was his issue, the fact that Kyle Edwards just wasn't fit enough to be able to withstand an extended amount of minutes. That's why he had to use players like McLaughlin. But we'll get to that in a bit of it. Jordy, he says, he reminds me of Morrow, but looks a little bigger. I'm assuming you're talking about Kyle Edwards. In regards to his play style? Yeah, I think that's probably what he means, or an actual appearance, because Kyle Edwards sure knows how to rock a fro. But moving on. We're going on to the defenders. All right. Carter Manley. Why can't I see you, Ray?
Okay. Give me a second here. I had to turn off the camera here for a second. But anyway, here I go. Back on. Finally. All right. Carter Manley. Mid-season edition. Veteran player. Has played MLS, League One, Championship. You name it, he has it. For some odd reason, he might be one of those guys that might start the season off with the Dynamo for about a week or two, and then he'll eventually land back down into Rio Grande Valley. That's just me. So I think he stays.
To me, he's got to go.
Okay.
And the reason why I say he's got to go is because he's supposed to be the veteran experience. He's supposed to be, the player that's supposed to set the example. He might not be the captain, but he's the one that players are going to look up to, especially the young players. And how many times did I single him out for not hustling back to his position when he needed to, and leaving open spaces, and not even attempting to get back in time to cover those spaces that he left out there. You see Ian Hoffman play that same position as a right back in these last two games. The team lost the ball. Oh, he hustled his ass back to his position to try to get the ball back. Something we didn't see out of Carter Manley. Now, if you want to have him as a center back, I think he does really well. But I think if you're going to have a veteran player, I think we can do better than Carter Manley in regards to that aspect that I'm mentioning about. So for me, he goes.
Fair assessment.
All right. Next on the list, Robert Coronado.
Oh, he played so well these last two games. Him and Kyle Adams just being that focal partnered center backs that you like to see perform very well. I think he gets one more year.
Robcor?
Yes.
Okay. I want to see one more year out of him. I think while he did have some hiccups in regards to that red card he received against Austin Bold at Austin Bold, that led to the team ended up losing because of that, or at least partially because of that. I think the time that he has been here, he's been consistently one of the best players on the defense. So honestly, I would love to see him one more year. Matt Jordan will probably think otherwise, just for the reasons I've already mentioned. But for me, I want him to stay.
Okay, yeah, that can possibly happen.
All right.
Next name on that list,
Robert Castellanos.
Robert Castellanos. Stays. Easy choice. I'm not even gonna second think that or make an argument why he should leave. The only reason why he would leave. Those 2 years and done process that Matt Jordan
Actually,
loves
it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years.
Or the 3 years and get out of town rule that Jordan likes to have. But because of his play, I think he will stay.
I know people are probably asking because people probably seen his posts, kind of where it seems like a goodbye from Robert Castellanos. I personally see it as a goodbye. Sadly, obviously nothing has been officialized yet. Although you can probably say that all the players do that at the end of the season, where they say thanks to the fans and everything like that. I knew I forgot something, bro. Because Code Awesome is asking to put the player's card so they can see, or basically a picture of the player, and I don't have the graphics with me. I didn't set them up on OBS. Sorry about that. Let me see what I can do. About that. In fact, because I know that does make a difference, guys. So I will accommodate you all. Hopefully, OBS will allow me to add them while the stream is happening at this moment. Why can't a club roster? All right. So right now we are talking about no, I don't want the link. Why is it? Okay, see, I got this. All right, guys. So right now we are talking about Robert Castellanos, right? So I'll put this over yonder, right here. All right. So this might be a little awkward to see, but actually, what I actually can do is put this right there. There we go. All right, so Robert Castellanos, right? I do think I would like to see him at the Dynamo. I think he deserves a Dynamo first team call up. From what he has shown in his 3 years here at RGVFC. So if he doesn't come back to the Arturos, I actually want to see him at the Dynamo with the first team. We know that Alejandro Fuenmayor's contract is also running out in December. So I see Fuenmayor leaving on a free. And we might see, and I think Kyle Adams' contract is also, I'm not sure about that, so don't quote me on it. But I would rather have Castellanos over Alejandro Fuenmayor in the Houston Dynamo. Alejandro Fuenmayor has been very hit and miss, mostly a lot of miss in regards to his decision making. I know he played well yesterday, even having an early yellow card, but he tends to be a little bit too aggressive, which has costed cards for this team. So honestly, I think I would rather have an American player as the backup rather than a defender that takes up an international slot in MLS. So I would love to have him, and I'd love to have Castellanos as a Dynamo player for next season. And the thing is, if he doesn't become a Dynamo player, then he for sure is on his way out from the team. So, and that's what Jordy says. He says Castellanos might go to the Dynamo if the team lets Figueroa, Fuenmayor, and Cabrera walk. So, and I think with Figueroa, he's decent, but he is a veteran, and I think Tab what he wants to do, he wants to make this squad a whole lot younger. So I do feel that he might come in, Castellanos might come in, not necessarily take his spot, but probably move up other players to take up Minor Figueroa's spot as the partner with Kiki Struna in the defense. All right, so moving on. Moving on to the next player, we have Diego Rocha. Do they have a? I don't think they have a picture of Diego Rocha.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
All right. So while you talk about Diego Rocha, I'll look for a picture of him.
He stays definitely only because he's an academy product. He's a guy that can, despite being 19 years old, he did show some promising moments. I'll never forget the one moment where he held up an MLS veteran attacker on a set piece, where easily that could have become a scoring opportunity for the opposing team. So I think Rocha stays.
The fact that he is an academy product, I think that gives the Toros more leeway to tell the Dynamo to keep him. I would rather keep him. I think the fans, from what I've seen on Facebook, they want to see more RGV native players on the roster. And when you've got Diego Rocha already there at his young age, showing that he won't, that he doesn't look out of place at the professional setup, I think he's staying. I do want him to stay, to be honest. But at the end of the day, it's not our call. But he's young. He has a lot to learn, but he shows a lot of potential. To me, he stays.
He stays as well. So a little round of applause there for Green. Next name.
That.
Next.
All right.
The next name on that list. Andrew Samuels.
Andrew Samuels, yes.
Oh man, Andrew Samuels. Spent preseason with the Dynamo. He looks like he has a promising future. This one's really this is one of like several 50-50s on this list. Final verdict, I think he stays. Ultimately, I think he stays only because if he's going to be part of that youth revolution that Tab Ramos wants to have, he might have been one of those that he could have used them for just for minutes, and I think he could meet the requirements that Tab Ramos could use in the near future.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a second choice wingback option, that's where I would like to see Andrew Samuels, and I think it will continue. So I think he stays.
I think for me, he proved to be a very consistent and reliable right back when he played back in the 2019 season. But I don't know how his injury was going to affect him.
Yeah, very true.
I don't know how this injury is going to affect him. I believe he tore his ACL, which is a lengthy recovery process. So I would like to see him back at least as a backup for Ian Hoffman. But so for me, it would be a dinks, but I think the Dynamo are probably going to release him, and that's just me being a little bit honest.
I could see where the Dynamo could let him go. Honestly, I could see that. Uh, but for me, I think he kind of fits that youth mold revolution that Tab Ramos is looking for,
Yeah.
and that's where I think that he fits that billing. Because remember, he was spending preseason with the Dynamo, so obviously Tab saw something in him that kept them up there for a little bit.
So Jordy mentions, he says Tap might want to bring in American players that he coached in the U.S. youth national team that are struggling in Europe and MLS to get minutes. That also might be beneficial for RGV because, like with Hoffman, players might not be ready for the Dynamo and they will go to RGV and get minutes. And we know that they are actually proven talent, unlike some of these guys that get out of college. They tend to be a little bit more on the iffy side compared to players that are actually the elite or the best of the best at a national level to be able to be called up to the youth national team. So I think this is where Tab Ramos' influence can be very beneficial. We saw it with James Murphy. We're seeing it with Ian Hoffman as well. If we can get more young players like these to RGV, I think the core squad of the Toros might have a huge jump in talent compared to years before. We just need veteran experience with, on the squad as well. And I would think that will give a really, really good balance that'll hopefully, would be the key to making the Toros a playoff team, at least.
Yes, so you say he goes, I say he stays.
I want him to stay, though.
Okay, okay, a little applause for staying. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next one on the list.
Emil Lego, the French Canadian midfielder. In my only interview with the guy, uh, you know, he seemed determined, but then when I would see him play, one of the things that I did notice he kind of played a little bit out of place for him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Only because he's a youth guy. Oh man, and he's a tough case too because remember he holds a French and Canadian passport, so there's an international slot. I think he stays only because of that age thing that the Dynamo love to uh, impulse on the Toros a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think he kind of stays.
He is 20 years old. Andrew Samuels is 23, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. 23 years old. That might count against Andrew Samuels and in favor of Emil Lego. We didn't see a lot of Emil Lego this season because they ended up putting Carter Manley on there. And a lot of times he didn't even come in as not even as a substitution or wasn't even on the bench. So I'm going to say if this is a player that is not going to be a consistent starter, I don't think he's staying. He's, like you said, he needs an international slot. And if you're not going to use your international slots correctly for a consistent starter, why even use it anyway? So for me, mm-hmm. Emil Lego has to go. I don't have anything against the kid, honestly. If I say anything, where I wanted to go, it's not anything personal against them. It's just looking at these particular thoughts, these particular things that make me believe, it's not worth keeping him. Either his performance or things like we mentioned, international slots. International slots are very, they're very valuable, I think. And it doesn't make sense to me to use it on a player that's going to be fringe reserve and bench. So that's my way of looking at it for Emil Lego.
Okay. I'll live to fight another day. Um, Next player on that list, Jonathan Jimenez, midseason acquisition, midfielder. Uh, I thought he did better as a defender than what he did as a wingback. Um, Kid with a lot of pace, a lot of energy. Former Chicago Fire draft pick in the MLS draft from the University of Pacific. So um, I think he goes.
Sorry, putting his picture on screen so you guys have an idea who he is and might hopefully recognize him. But he played as number 27 for the Toros. To me, I think Jonathan Jimenez is another one of those players that had a small sample size in my eyes, but from what I saw, it was positive. And I actually gonna have to be opposite of you. I actually think he looked better offensively than defensively. So for me, to me, he's an American, young American. He stays. I think he stays just to see how better he can be with the preseason and with this team. So I do think he will stay. I do want him to stay to continue to prove himself with this team.
Okay. Not gonna pose any arguments there. Next name on this list, Kyle Adams.
Actually, it's Eric Mchugh.
Eric Mchugh.
I know there's a picture of here of Mchugh. No, I guess there isn't. But yes, Eric Mchugh.
He goes. I mean, I think he spent enough time with the Dynamo, Toros, a tweener that really never found his place.
Continue.
And I just feel like the enough sample size that we saw from him really isn't fully convincing.
Let me think about Eric Mchugh. And the reason I think a lot about Eric Mchugh is because the kid is an academy product for the Houston Dynamo. He is supposed to be the next. It's the word I'm trying to look for, but the next academy success story besides Memo Rodriguez. And from what I saw, he really wasn't that bad. I think there are some particular moment, or not particular moments, but there's some particular aspects of him that I think he needs to improve. For example, sometimes what I saw this season was a lot of the times he wants to grab or get to aerial balls with his legs rather than his head. And that awkward positioning puts him out of position many times. I think the biggest one that comes to mind is in that San Antonio match where he tried to grab that ball in the air with his leg rather than trying to chest it or hit it with his head. So that aspect of his play needs to be improved. But overall, I think the moments that he has been on there, besides those, I think he's been all right. And the fact that he isn't Dynamo loanee, I think they're going to have a lot more patience. Not loanee, but a Dynamo Academy product. I think they're going to have lot more patience for him compared to other players that are out of college. My personal decision for me, he stays. I want to see him develop, and I think the fact is also that usually he trains with the Dynamo first team rather than with RGV. So, and I think Tab Ramos, with this youth revolution that he has, he's going to want more to see more out of Eric Mchugh, and I think that will be a plus, even though he might. The problem is, because he's with the Dynamo first team, training is probably going to be a little bit out of sync with the RGV squad. But I mean, that's the Dynamo for you. But for me, I would want him to stay.
Okay. Let's go on with this next name on the list, Kyle Adams. Here's a guy who has a standard. Here's another international player with the green card slot now. In terms of MLS, guy has a standard contract who ends at the end of the year. These last few games he's played pretty well. The old Kyle Adams, where he's had some clean participations. I would love to see him stay, only because he's 21, 22. I think he gets another opportunity at a standard contract. However, he is going to have to prove himself a lot during preseason in order to try to cement down a spot with the Dynamo.
All right, so for me, personal opinion, guys, I would not like to see him next season, and this is why. Throughout the games after he was loaned to RGV from having the Dynamo first team contract, he made a lot of mistakes. He didn't look like himself out there. It looked like he wasn't giving it his 100%, and this is just me watching it, from the outside looking in. Don't know exactly if that is the case, but to me, he just didn't seem all there, and we see that a lot with Dynamo loanees, where they don't give their 100% when they get loaned down to the Dynamo, whether it's because they see it more as a as a punishment, for not making the Dynamo first team or whatever. They don't give their 100% here. They're not as concentrated. And from a player that during preseason mentioned that if he would be loaned down to RGV, he would give his 100% to give playoffs to this team, and then seeing this, it kind of rubbed the wrong way for me. Wow, I appreciate the guy. He's pretty chill dude to talk to, but at least for me, looking at it in the football aspect, I would not want to see him. That if he does stay, he's a welcome addition, but just give your 100%, But honestly, not for me.
Okay.
Mike, we are going through the whole roster we're asking ourselves, would we want them back for next season or not? So Jordy asks, he says, do you think the coach will stay next year? He hasn't had any success or developed any players. He came from college, and Tab or Jordan or a future GM might want to give another young coach a shot.
Very, very valid question, because it really is. However, I think there's that deep relationship that runs between Tab and Coach Echeverry. While personally I find myself being a fan of Coach Echeverry myself, I think he stays, but I just think that there might be a little bit of a leash for him to get results if he is provided with the resources to succeed.
I think that's the key right there. Given resources to succeed. Let's be honest, this season, he wasn't given the resources to succeed. At least that's the way I see it. I think he was the way that the Dynamo were preparing for this season was incorrect. I think at least for me, and it was just accentuated by the pandemic. The way here's the thing, guys, and this is on record stuff. The way the Dynamo wanted to approach the season was they wanted the squad to be filled with young guys, but they wanted the experience to be the players that the Dynamo would send down. So unlike other years where we had a Carlos Esmal, where we had a Michael Salazar that was an RGV player, and then eventually, you know, at least with Michael Salazar, after 5 games, all right, you're coming with us. But at least it was built like that. No, this time we just got a bunch of college kids. Obviously, the players that came back for this next season, Coster, Coronado, Deshane Beckford, etc., etc. But they wanted the experienced players to be your Nico Hansens, your Michael Nelsons, your Michael Salazars, Marcelo Palomino, etc., etc., etc. You name it. With COVID, Coach Tab Ramos just didn't want to take the risk of having to not have his players in case something happened with the Houston Dynamo. Well, now you don't have these players available because they went down to the RGV and they have to go through quarantine and they have to take all the COVID tests again and make sure that they're positive twice. You know, the good stuff, right? So if they did loan down players like they did with Ian Hoffman and Kyle Adams, well, they were gone for the rest of the season, right? So that's the way they approached it. And one of the things that I have said, you know, during the season, especially to those on Facebook that are constantly, you know, asking for his head, etc. The thing about it is Coach Echeverry, when he is given stability, when he is given full control of his squad, as far as his XI is concerned, he gave results. When you give him a striker that slots the balls in to the net like Carlos Esmal, you know, when you have a decent midfield, when you have, you know, a good defense, you know, and there wasn't constant movement. Oh, well, you have to put in these Dynamo loanees, or you know what, we're taking these players due to the Open Cup and stuff like that. He gave results. Last season, we ended with a 5-game positive streak. Now, there are obviously Coach Echeverry has faults, just like every other coach. Not even Pep Guardiola is perfect. Not even Zinedine Zidane is perfect. My quirks with Coach Echeverry has got to be the timing of his substitutions, and of course the rotation of his squad. What we would see is he had a starting 11, but in the cases where he had games, you know, in the middle of the game, and he had to rotate the complete squad with the bench and reserves, but the bench and reserves just didn't show up. It could be a talent issue, or the fact, you know, they don't have, you know, that game fitness, you know, to play. We saw that last season in 2019, you know, where you went from, you know, tying 4-4 against LA Galaxy 2 to losing 5-0 against Fresno. So, but because in Fresno they had to use the bench and the reserves. Those are my quirks. Now, but overall, if you give him stability, if you give him time to build chemistry and respect that chemistry, I think he can do a good job. But you got to give him the foundation with him to work with. It's like you're constructing a building. If you give the contractor shoddy materials, and that's the materials he has to work with. He can't make miracles. You know, if the wood is all you know, rotten and stuff. I mean, the foundation's gonna break, you know, or the house is gonna break because the quality of the materials is crap. But if you give him decent, you know, quality to work with, I think he can actually give you a decent run, not a title, but he can give you a decent run to make it into playoffs. But the Dynamo has to respect the autonomy of Coach Echeverry's decisions more than they were in the past couple of years. And that includes, if you're going to send Dynamo loanees, the way I see it, you got to have them train under Gerson Echeverry for the whole week, and then Gerson Echeverry can then make a decision whether that Dynamo loanee will play as a starter or not, rather than, oh, we're sending this guy, oh, he has to play a certain number of minutes, or he has to be a starter. So that's the way I see it. Others might not agree with me. That's okay. That's what soccer's all about, you know. But at least I would give him one more year. So Jordy then says, if it wasn't for COVID, a lot of Dynamo players would have been down to RGV like Peña, Salazar, Lemoyne, Palomino,
With who?
Younggate. That guy that was. When we go back to players that aren't dedicated, right? Dynamo first team players that when they get sent down, they're not dedicated. Peña is a prime example, where he doesn't take it seriously. With and for Mayor as well. Stupid red cards, stupid mistakes, etc., etc. It just shows they aren't committed to the toros, and they see it as a punishment rather than an opportunity to get some match fitness out of themselves. So, but yeah, that was the original plan, Jordy. He says you could also add Rios, who signed a homegrown contract with the Dynamo this year. Could have been one too. Hopefully, we'll see him next year. He says, if things go well next year, I think RGV would be more of a Dynamo B team rather than a last place USL team full of college players. It depends on what kind of B team you want to see it. If you want to see it like a Reno or a Real Monarchs of 2019 kind of B team, then yes, I think there is potential. But then again, if your idea of a Dynamo B team is a Tacoma Defiance, then the bar is set really, really low in that aspect, or Loudoun United. The bar is low for Loudoun United. They won the wooden spoon. So, but my idea is more of a Reno, more of an LA Galaxy 2, more of a Red Bulls 2 of 2016, rather than a Loudoun United. So, but that's just me. Right? Mike says, I want to see some guys back like Jimenez, Obregon, Edwards, of course, Gaste, but he does see those players. But anyway, moving on, because it's 8:12 right now. All right, so next on the list, hopefully, all right, we've got Sam Jungkwa.
Stays.
Sam Jungkwa, my favorite player. Actually, honestly, I'm being a little sarcastic in that aspect. I really haven't been much of a fan of Sam Jungkwa when he comes down to the Rio Grande Valley Toros, but you gotta hand it to the kid. These couple of minutes that he has gotten with the Houston Dynamo in these games against FC Dallas and against SKC, I think he's played better, and I think Tab Ramos has actually figured out a way on how to get him to develop a little bit better. He's a player, like I've mentioned before. He understands the game. The guy, I have no doubt from the times that I've interviewed him, that he has an amazing way of analyzing the game. Like, he knows tactics, he knows all of the stuff. He's a great analytical. But his on-field performances at RGV kind of left a little bit to be desired. But it could be attributed to the lack of chemistry between Chuy Enriquez and him, because Sam Jungkwa was always practicing with the Dynamo first team and not with RGV. So when Sam Jungkwa was playing over Robert Coronado, who did have chemistry with Chuy because they're always practicing, well, of course, he looked a little bit out of sync. Also, I'll have to take into consideration that with RGV, Sam Jungkwa isn't really much of an attacker, or wasn't really much of a wing back like Coronado plays with RGV. So, honestly, to be completely frank, I don't think he's coming back to RGVFC, but this is why. Because he is going to be the backup left back for Tab Ramos, which means we won't see him on RGV.
Moving on with our midfielders.
Wow, he completely went over my analysis.
I have no defense. I have no defense for that. None.
Really?
Well, he never really played for RGV except for what, season opener? That was it.
Who? Sam Jungkwa?
No.
Not this year.
But
last year he played a lot of games.
Yeah, but point is, he's a dynamo player, and I think he'll stay a dynamo player. But will we see him down here in the valley? No.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't honestly don't think that that is going to happen. So next on the list, man, I hate having to manually have to move this down the freaking thing. But next on the list, we've got James Murphy. James Murphy was an acquisition, a midseason acquisition, supposed to be a midfielder, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
There were times where he played both as a midfielder and as a defender, and he played it well.
mm-hmm. Looked a little bit
Uh,
shaky in the beginning. I think the whole midfield was shaky, but they were trying to. I think it was more along the lines they were trying to find their groove around, just trying to see where they fit better. Um, but when they actually hit their stride, James Murphy looked James Murphy looked all right. So honestly, I do want to see more out of James Murphy for next season.
he stays. I think he stays only because he's a young. He's an American. He kind of fits that mold that Tab Ramos likes. That and he's also dealt with him.
Mm.
So I kind of think, yeah, I would say for those two reasons alone, he stays.
Mike, why don't you want James Murphy to stay? Go ahead and put it in the chat to see what are your reasons why you don't want James Murphy to be back for next season. So, like I said, honestly, at the beginning he was a little bit iffy. Um, but like I said, as he grew his stride, I think he played better. He really wasn't an outstanding player, like where you can pinpoint it at him and say, "Oh, like this guy is on fire." But he did the job, and I think you have to look at it with James Murphy. This is more than likely a tab signing. This is a signing because they want to see this player and see how he develops. If I'm not mistaken, James Murphy is a youth national team player, correct?
Correct? He was at one point.
So so yeah, I think that's where things are going with him. That's why I think he stays. And he really didn't do that bad. So he's not one of those players where like, okay, no, I don't want him here. But this is one of those players like this is your new chance with an off season with the team or with a preseason with the team and a full season. Let's see how you do now. Now, if next season he completely poops the bed, then yeah, no. But with these mid-season acquisitions, I think this is more than likely this is one of those where I want to see him a full year and with a preseason with the team and see how they perform under those circumstances. So that's another one of the reasons why I want him to come back. So Jordy asked, didn't James Murphy come from Scotland? So
Yes.
actually, he came. Yes. So he came from Aberwarth. I completely botched that. But they are from the Scottish Championship. That team that he came from was from the Scottish Championship. However,
Correct.
he was an under 20 youth national team player back in 2015, which is a ways back. But I mean, again, you're talking about right now. He is 23. 5 years ago, he was 18. So the fact that he was an 18-year-old in the under 20s, I think he has some talent within him, but I think it's one of those things where he just hasn't been really consistent in appearances with the teams that he was at. So for example, from 2016 to 2018, he was at Sheffield Wednesday, 0 appearances. In 2018, I believe he was a draft. Was he? No, he. I'm not sure if it was a draft pick or if he was. Let me see. No, he actually was signed by LAFC in their inaugural season. 0 appearances. However, in that season, he was loaned down to Las Vegas Lights, where he had 7 appearances. And then in 2019, that's when he started having more appearances under Arbroath with 17 appearances, and then he comes with RGV with 11 appearances for the team. And he says if Tab keeps him, that would be good, but like I said, it's up to the Dynamo to bring him back. Well,
Jordan, he's not wrong in that aspect.
Right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's the general manager's decision, but I think right now Tab Ramos has a lot more influence than other previous coaches. Because at least Tab Ramos knows what he's doing. Wink, wink.
Yeah, wink,
wink. So Santos says, as a fan that doesn't know the whole roster that can connect the name to a face, just get back to playoffs. I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want. And hopefully the Dynamo can actually give us this for next season. We are anxious for a playoff run like we did in 2016.
Correct.
So, but this is surprisingly, in the eyes of the Dynamo, these players are a long-term commitment to developing these players and allowing them to give them minutes in a professional setting. So, we're talking about 20-year-olds, 18-year-olds on this team rather than 23-year-olds, that just barely came out of college. Because let's be honest, the players out of college, they have a lot of catching up to do compared to these other kids that have been in that environment of the youth national team and in professional clubs, even if it's at the academy level. But I think they have a better preparation to be professionals than kids out of college. Coach has said it himself. It's basically with the kids out of college, it's basically teaching them back to square one, because the way that they play in NCAA is completely different than it is in professional soccer. For starters, the amount of training sessions. We practice a whole lot more at the professional level than in college. So, Jordy says, Tab wants players that are good on the ball and are going to run to high press. Do you think Echeverria will be able to replicate the style Tab wants his team to play? I think so. I think he can, but it all goes back to actually having the players that he needs. Once we get to what's his name, Garrett McLaughlin, which we actually had to make this really quick. We'll talk more about that. All right, so next player on the list,
Isidro Martinez,
Cheloniski,
El Chelo de Oro,
Chelo crack. All right, I want to hear your thoughts.
There's a saying that I've learned here while working in all levels of, or not all levels, but in the sports industry, where you gotta at least have no more than 4 local players from your area to give your team that face. Therefore, having said that, I think you would see Cello as a stay, only because I feel like there's something that Tab Ramos saw in him during preseason, and obviously I just think that he kind of fits that mold that the Dynamo are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I think he stays. Will he get his cup of coffee with the Dynamo? That's kind of a tough one for me to buy or sell in either direction, but I do think that he does end up back again with the RGV, or at minimum spends all of training camp with the Dynamo.
So, Jordy says, I think this team reflected what Wilmer Cabrera wanted. Tab is a different coach, and you could see the difference this year where he turned Saran from an error-prone player to someone who is good now. Now we have to remember Wilmer Cabrera loved playing with a 4-2-3-1, whereas Tab Ramos, his formation of choice is more of a 4-3-3. And you saw it with the Toros this year, where they consistently played under a 4-3-3 formation. Now, when you have the right mix of players, like in those last two matches, it did wonders for the team. Very offensive. They when they were able to keep, at least some sort of organization out there in the back. So I think it's a really good positive, and it kind of shows, going back to your question, Jordy, that I think Echeverry can be able to implement this 4-3-3 formation that Tab wants in throughout the whole system. I think he would be able to implement it with the Toros if he were to stay. So that answers your question, and then it goes with the fact that maybe he wants to see this team go in a different route, and maybe Coach Echeverry needs those players for that specific formation, which what this offseason I think they might be working on with that. Because Tab Ramos came in late in the during the offseason for the Houston Dynamo, really didn't have a lot of time to kind of implement his views on RGVFC and get the players needed for that new style before the season had to begin. So there's that as well. Players in RGV now can see playing good down there can lead them 2 minutes with the Dynamo, like Jungkwa. Wilmer Cabrera never played players he signed from RGV, like Eric Bird. Oh, that's a completely different story. Ooh, if you only knew, guys. If you only knew. But what I can say about that is there's a reason why Wilmer Cabrera was voted as the worst coach to play under in MLS. That's all I can say. But I know why the players actually voted him to have that award under an anonymous poll. So just imagine. You're onto something, Jordy. All right. Next, so for me, there we go. For me, he stays because I think he is the face of this team at this moment. And I think this was an opportunity for him to kind of grow into this new formation. And now that he's kind of accustomed to this 4-3-3, let's see what he can do with better players around him and a general idea of what Tab wants for the Dynamo first team into the RGVFC team. Next on the list.
Next on this list. Dun, 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 dun. Timo Milic. Now, this is a really mixed bag on multiple fronts. As the MLS draft was going on, Toros make the announcement that Timo Milic has been added to our roster. But then the Seattle Sounders take him in the draft. Now, this might be a lose-lose situation for both player and Dynamo in this regard. Should Timo return, Houston would have to pay Seattle Garber bucks, MLS dollars. Okay? Now, if the Dynamo decide on this front, you can go back to Seattle. Well, guess what? Dynamo's not going to receive any money out of it. So, this is a lose-lose everywhere for both Dynamo and for both Timo Milic.
And let's not forget that Timo requires an international slot too.
That is also true. So now you're looking at that third front now with the international. It kind of breaks me because he was one of the first persons I met this year from the team during preseason interviews. before COVID came crashing on everyone's party, I think he actually goes to Seattle. Unfortunately,
Mike
and
says,
this is not a knock on him personally, but this is something that um I mean
so
I
okay,
don't know.
going with what Mike says, he says he signed with the Dynamo though, from what I know. Okay, so here's the thing though. So if the Dynamo wants to have him play in MLS, they would have to pay Seattle some Garber bucks to have him, because
Yes.
Seattle Sounders has the MLS rights to Timo Melic. He signed a USL contract with the Dynamo to play with the Toros. That's why he's playing with us. But if the Dynamo were to call Timo Melic to play in MLS, whether it's Open Cup or an actual MLS game, they'd have to give Garber bucks, GAM or TAM, to Seattle Sounders in order to play him, because the priority, because Seattle Sounders drafted him in the Super Draft, they own the rights to having him the first dibs per se to play him at the MLS level. So there's the thing with Timo Melic and the Houston Dynamo and Seattle Sounders, from what I know and from what it was described to me. So that's how it
I
is.
th- this for me, it bothers me a little bit, but I think he he becomes a Seattle Sounder property now. Regardless whether he plays for the MLS side or not, I think he ends up with Seattle next season. I don't know about you, Edson, but I don't know about you, Edson.
I don't think we saw a lot of out of him when he first came back, he got injured, or when he
Yep.
first started, he got injured. We didn't really see a lot of him, and when we did see him, we expected to see more outside the box shots like he did in college. We really didn't see a lot of that either. So I think for me, and the fact is, another international slot. Why are you going to use an international slot for a player that's not going to be a starter? To me, he doesn't come back.
Nope.
All right.
Victor Garza.
All right. Well,
Ta-
this is an
Talk about el papá de los pollitos.
but Victor is an interesting situation, to be honest.
Oh man. You don't judge a book by its cover. And this goes to the point where you need local players that are faces of the franchise. Not that he equals that billing, but when you need like locker room leader, he checks off that.
Mm-hmm. Experience.
Experience, check.
It's just that he
Final
doesn't really
verdict.
play. It's just he doesn't play a lot. But
And
from what I know,
and this may have been like the ideal season to get him a lot of minutes. You
mm-hmm,
remember, we had next to no Dynamo loanees.
mm-hmm.
This would have been the ideal position for him to have seen a lot more minutes than usual. Final verdict for me, for me, he stays.
To me, he stays because of what he brings to the locker room. He may not play a lot, but he brings a lot to the locker room. And the fact is, I I think if Victor does retire, Victor will probably, given to like how much like he's been here for the team. I think there's some plans for him in the front office, and I think it would
Well,
be great.
Well, I would like to see him get a crack at coaching, kind of like a Ryan Coulter type of thing.
Mm,
Not necessarily become a player coach, but lean a little bit more towards the coaching side
mm-hmm.
before transitioning into that office side or front office side.
Yeah.
I don't know about you on that one. I kind of see a little.
Well, as far as I've been told, Victor Garza has been going to school as well, and I believe he is studying. His career will be sports business. So I don't. There could be a possibility of what I said, but I think he is a, like we say in Spanish, es un emblema del equipo, and people look up to him. And he mentioned in his interview last year with the little segment that the Toros had tried, he talked about that. That he loves talking to the players and making sure that they feel welcome and everything like that. And so I think he's very, very influential in that aspect, and I would much rather keep him in there. I mean, the guy is an RGV native too, so especially
That helps us cause.
yes. So I would definitely keep him. All right.
Definitely,
Next
definitely
on the
keep him.
list,
Next on
next
the list.
Kevin Rodriguez,
Oh man,
Mr. Kevin.
this is the guy I had a lot of high hopes on, particularly on our offensive end. I felt like he could have been our offensive creator that would have been he would have been a nice offensive midfielder. But man, my high hopes became ashes rather quickly. And given the fact that he's 24, that's probably like borderline-ish get out. I
He,
mean,
he is an academy product though, out of Pasadena, Texas. So they
and
might give him
that's
a little bit more leeway through that.
oh man. You know, for me, there's more arguments for him to go than to stay, but the academy thing, man, he barely stays. But for
Barely, yes.
me, he doesn't have enough credentials. So,
I would keep him as a backup.
I mean, I know the guy can be productive if he ends up in a League One team,
Mm-hmm.
but I just feel like he can barely stay just because he oh man, I just had so many hopes for the guy that it was just like a big uh letdown.
So we can agree that he is borderline
He's borderline. He stays, but not enough credentials to back it.
to be a starter.
Yeah,
I would say yeah. I would agree with you in that aspect. I think we saw some potential in him against El Paso. I don't know what happened the rest of the season. Did he get injured? Or I know, think there. I don't know if he got injured, man. That's why you didn't see him a while. So that could be why as well. We didn't see a lot of out of him. I'm willing to give him one more season to for next season.
yeah.
All right, next on the list, Luca Perpa.
Hey, did you ask that question seriously? I'm just kidding. In all seriousness, there were some flashes in the pan for him. There really was towards the end. There really was. And again, see Kevin Rodriguez. See Kevin Rodriguez minus the academy credentials. I would love to see him stay just to like give him that mental wake up call. Again, I would love for him to stay. Not enough credentials, so he fits the billing. He's a young American. He's a draft. He. I mean, that's all he has going for him.
To me, no,
Yeah, I
not
know
for
you.
me.
I know he was subject of victim being called out by you in so many occasions. I feel like I I can agree with you on why he goes.
He really wasn't influential when we needed him to be influential. He wasn't, and when he got those goals was because of Kyle Edwards and his play style. And the fact that we're playing a 4-3-3 formation rather than a two striker formation, how he would play with McLaughlin, I don't think he fits the bill, for this team. I think he needs a different play style. He needs a team
Okay.
with a different play style. So for me, I don't see him fitting with Tab's vision of playing. So he goes, and his production
Ah,
really wasn't that great. So,
okay. Okay.
and that goes for
Um.
both. That goes for both goals and assists. All right, next on the list, Ian Hoffman.
Oh, he definitely stays. He definitely stays. I mean, he's got a future first team contract, but besides that, I mean, I like the way he held himself playing wise. I felt like he did really well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I just I I like him. I like his play style.
That's Murphy. To me, he stays. That is, there's. Oh no, that's not the one I wanted. There we go. Sorry about that. I want the dings, not the horns. To me, it's easy. He stays. I liked what he brought as a right back. That is what Coach Tab Ramos wants to see him in for the future. The fact is, he's a Dynamo loan signing, not an RGV signing. So I think he's one of those where he's going to use the rest 2021 to see what he can still do and then to bring out to the Dynamo. So I think he is definitely coming back for next season. So moving on, we've got Kambo Kibato.
Oh my! Talk about talk about a player who had a lot of ups and downs throughout the season. Um, he stays. He stays only because he's he's young. Although he occupies an international slot, but he's a guy who can play at times from box to box.
Mm-hmm.
And these last three games, he kind of showed that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So he stays. He's got enough credentials to stay at least one more.
For me, he stays as well. I liked what he saw. I liked what I saw in the last couple of games. Once he found his groove, he was able to communicate with Ian Hoffman. When Ian Hoffman went up to attack, Kambo Kibato stayed back and covered his space as well in the back area, which is what a defensive midfielder should do. So I liked that communication out of him. He can defend, and he can also attack, as we saw in the last game with those 2 assists. Hopefully, he can continue to be more consistent. But I do see Kambo Kibato worthy of using an international slot for him. I do see him being a starter for next season if he does come back. So for me, my vote of confidence is with him. He stays.
Next name on that list.
So Jordy asked if didn't Tab draft Ian Hoffman. No, this was a signing. This was a signing.
No.
This was not from the draft. He came from Europe. He says Ian Hoffman is probably going to the Dynamo if Boniek retires.
Ian Hoffman came from Germany, if I'm not mistaken. He came from Hoffenheim.
No, that was no. Oh wait, no. Ian Hoffman came. He actually came from. Let me see. He was with. Yeah, he came from Germany, but he didn't come from where you mentioned. Hoffenheim. No, he came from KSC. Karlsruher SC. And I totally boxed
Kaiserslautern.
No. Karlsruher SC. That's where he came from the youth leagues there. That's where he was. So, but yeah. Now moving forward, we've got Juan Carlos Azócar.
Bring him back. Limited sample size. I liked him. Prowess in the area.
Correct, Jordan. Yes, he was a Toronto Academy player. Continue.
Juan Carlos Azócar, bring him back.
The thing with Juan Carlos Azócar is that his loan is very limited. It was limited to just the 2020 season, but I really want to hope that he gets renewed for next season. And come on. But I do want to see him back as well. I think he jump started this offense in the games that he did manage to play, and I see the fact that he's got some experience abroad. I see that as a plus for this team, and with a position that is really critical in Tab's system. I think this is the kind of player that Coach Echeverry needs. Tab drafted Luca Perpa. Yes, he was a Dynamo draft pick, but it's very common for there to be draft picks that are one and dones. Biggest case or the most recent Brad Dunwell. Yes, Dynamo draft pick, didn't stay for season number 2. He signed with OKC Energy. So yes. Keep Juan Carlos Azócar or do anything you can to renew his loan stint or purchase him for RGVFC. I think it's another one of those cases where he deserves using an international slot. Christian Lucatero.
Another guy who came in with some hype. He was another Dynamo Academy guy. You know, he did show some brilliance, but severely faded off. Oh man, I don't know why, but this might be if Matt Jordan is renewed, this guy might be sent down to us one more time.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's a hell no.
I don't want him either.
Hell no. He had
I don't want him either.
He had a lot of time in 2016. He had a lot of time in 2017. He had this season as a comeback after going to Necaxa in Liga MX. Still doesn't show anything. Bye.
I am with you on that 100%. I am totally with you 100% on that. But just pray and hope that Matt Jordan isn't around for that one.
All right.
Just pray and hope.
So, all right. So you've got final answer.
No. I don't want him. Marcelo Palomino.
Well, Marcelo Palomino's a Dynamo first team player, so, and he was never sent down. So next on the list,
the forwards.
Hold on. Garrett McLaughlin.
Usui. No. No.
No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No.
Not even with the 100-foot totem pole, ladies and gentlemen. That is a no.
No. Go find yourself a League One team. Get yourself back on the groove over there. But with the Toros, we are not in a position to have a striker that does not produce, neither with goals nor assists, or at least the hustle to be a high pressure like Tab Ramos wants his team. He is not a fit at all for the Tab Ramos' system. I'm sorry, Garrett McLaughlin. It's nothing personal against you, but no, I would not want to see him back for 2021.
All Edwards, fourth round draft pick of the Dynamo, stays. Ponle casa, ponle Oxo con segunda caja, póngale todo. International spot because he's from the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let's keep him.
I would keep him too. I think once he gets fit, he shows that he can be a good addition. A good addition to this team. He's unlike Garrett McLaughlin. He puts in the work. He puts in the sacrifice for this team, even to the point of putting his body on the line for this team, not only offensively but defensively as well. We see that hustle out of him. So for me, he definitely stays for next season. But the bar's going to be set a little bit higher for him come next season. That's the thing, though. We want these players to come back. Those are we say we come back. But hey, we've got a lot more to prove on in 2021 because this is not your first rodeo anymore. So we both agree to keep Kyle Edwards.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Next on the list, we've got. Hell no, I'm not gonna touch Sam with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I'm just gonna yawn my way out of this one. Yeah, I'm gonna roll my eyes. I'm gonna yawn my way out.
Fuera Ronaldo Peña. All right. Deshane Beckford. The doctor.
The Beckford. Needless to say, I think he gets one more year.
Jordy, you're talking about Kyle Edwards, right? Yes, he did play for Brazos Valley Cavalry, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, yes. Brazos Valley Cavalry, yes.
And, of course, with UTRGV, which is why Ray knows him so well.
Yes, excellent forward, great person. Basically, he fits the billing of a good, powerful forward playing up front. Going back to Deshane Beckford, he stays at least one more year.
We have to remember though
he's an international.
No, but he is also a loanee from Montego Bay United, which was already renewed.
Yep.
So this might be one of those instances like with I forgot who it was.
As much as we want to keep him, he might leave.
And even then, I was actually going to say that maybe for me, because of that situation and because, he's not very consistent. I feel he's very fast. He's very gifted on with the ball, with the dribbling, but his finishing isn't that great though. So for me, no. Deshane Beckford, no.
No. Okay.
Given the situation as well with the loan, it's 2 years already. No, I wouldn't renew. I wouldn't renew the loan for him. So, sorry, Deshane, not for me. Like I said, nothing personal against anybody. All right, next on the list,
Michael Salazar.
Oh, that's a topic for the Dynamo stuff, and I know a lot of Dynamo players or Dynamo fans don't want him at the Dynamo. I would personally want him with RGV, but given the situation, I think he's out, especially since his contract does end in December.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that his injuries are getting the best out of him. It really is a shame.
All right, so moving on. Also, don't want to spend too much time on Salazar because he wasn't sent down this year. Next on the list, Tyberson Ruin Nunes. Tyberson. Back or no?
No. Great player, but then towards like the latter part when we would see him, he would spend more time bickering with the officials, and that's where you got to show a little bit of your senior leadership towards your club instead of like uh, engaging yourself in a secondary game where you don't have to be engaged at. So no for me.
No for me either, because not only what you just said, but also injury prone, and also
international.
And when our top three got in their groove, we definitely did not miss him. So we're going to be using an international slot for him. I don't see the reason to. For me, no. I don't think it's worth keeping Tyberson. And now we realized why Tyberson is a nomad going from team to team every season. It's exactly why. So, all right. I believe we got one more. Obregon. All right, Obregon. Juan Carlos Obregon.
Oh, okay. Although he's chosen to play for another country, he does hold an American status. I think he stays.
I definitely want him to stay. I think he has potential, and I think, like I said, the fact that he got into the groove alongside Kyle Edwards and Juan Carlos Azócar, I think we need to build that. We need to build that come next season and just add to it. We see the potential. This how explosive this team can be, right? So we just need to build on it, add better players, or add a better foundation to this team where we don't have to rely on Dynamo loanees as much. And for me, Juan Carlos Obregon could be the key. He has the confidence to shoot from outside the box, like we saw it, and I think he's talented. So yeah, I would want to see him come back for next season.
Same for me. I would love to see him come back next season as well.
So Mike says Becky comes back one more year. So you want him back for one more year, Mike, or do you think he's going to get renewed? And obviously, with the last person is Gerson Echeverry. We already talked about it. I would like to see him. We'd like to see him back.
I will say this much, and I've said it multiple times. Bill Parcells always said it best. You are what your record says you are. However, if you're gonna let Echeverry cook dinner, the very least a Dynamo can do is let him go out and pick and choose the groceries he needs to cook that wonderful dinner.
Yeah. We go back to what I mentioned before with the builder, with the contractor. You give him shoddy materials to work with, the final product isn't going to be great. You got to give him the material that he's comfortable with, or that knows, or that is good quality, and build upon that. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that the problem was more the talent, like we saw with McLaughlin and Purpa up on top, rather than a coaching error. So that's my take on it. A lot of people disagree. I mean, they have valid opinions, but you gotta be prepared to back it up. That's all I ask. If you have an opinion, gotta have some proof to back it up, rather than it just being like, I just just to say. I will say this though, it's funny how when the Toros were losing and losing and losing, there's a crap load of comments on Facebook. When the Toros started winning, those same people never showed up, or like never showed up to and continue to talk about the team.
That's true. And I remember seeing a show in Spanish. I'm not gonna give them publicity, but boy, did they ever throw out that hammer? And needless to say, I threw that gauntlet. They still haven't responded.
And they wanted me to come on the show as a guest. Never heard anything back from them either. So, but I am very prepared to defend my postures against the Reventadores from that show's audience. Hey, you never know. They can be converted and they can come listen to Down in the Valley. I mean, how long have we been covering this team? Since 2017.
Yeah.
We know the ins and outs. We know the ins and outs of this team, or at least some of it, that a lot of these people don't have, or they don't want to have. Because
or they're just too cheap not to pay for actual tryouts and let them see Matt Jordan firsthand themselves.
Yeah, well,
Well, hey, they prove that they're better than or let me say this: they talk a beautiful game, but when it comes time to backing it up, it's a whole different projection.
So Jordy brings up a good point that I think we might want to bring up for another episode, because it's already 9 p.m. and it's been 2 hours of a show. But he says the New York Red Bulls 2 team has a lot of college players, but they still win. A coach that can work with what he has is better than someone who needs better players.
Okay, all of that buckles down to scouting, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have the resources that Red Bulls has, it's kind of easier to pinpocket a lot of good players, because primarily you have the ACC and you have the Big East to choose from there. That's your top tier talent when it comes to college soccer. Now, do I believe that the Western Athletic Conference produces players that can actually be in the USL Championship? Yes, I do believe so. Now, again, it just goes down to MLS scouting at this point. I mean, there's not much else you can do about that.
And let's not forget, man. Let us not forget that Matt Jordan has been here since 2015, and his record for Dynamo draft picks has been horrendous.
I mean, he's missed on each and every single one of them, and that's just because there's a powerhouse here in the state of Texas as far as college soccer is concerned, SMU.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, that they're closer to Frisco than what they are to Houston.
It's funny you say SMU. Where's Garrett McLaughlin from, college-wise? SMU. And look what that brought us.
Yeah.
So it's not...
And you even have some top-level coaches that traditionally play UTRGV once a year. I'm looking at you, GCU, with Hellman... Hellas, oh man, I have his name in the tip of my tongue, but I mean that there's quality coaching in the Western Athletic Conference. There is. I mean, leave no doubt about it. I mean, it's just that it just depends how well you scout.
Mm-hmm.
and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. In a perfect world, yeah, there are some coaches that can make a pretty mediocre set of players play outstanding, but it is very rare. It is very rare to find those coaches. You
Yeah,
need it for more
Sheila
often.
Steinman is the coach's name. He used to coach at FC Dallas, won them numerous cups before he went back to the collegiate game and try to make the Western Athletic Conference a very good conference.
Like I said, Jordy brings up a really, really good point that I think we should discuss him further in another episode. But for now, I think this is gonna wrap it up today, guys. So next week there will not. Yes, Michael Nelson did go to SMU as well, and he has shown to be a good keeper. So at least there's that for him, for SMU. And like I said, I mean, they have a good reputation, in the collegiate level to have good players. And I think maybe Garrett McLaughlin might be the exception to the rule. I don't know, but at least at the professional level, Garrett McLaughlin wasn't really a good fit for RGV. True. Echeverry was never a top college coach or coaching a top college program. He did come from
Seton Hall. They're from the Big East. Hello. Seton Hall. Hello. Big East. Top conference.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Seton Hall is like a reputable soccer program.
Well, he left there with the positive record.
I mean, you know more about collegiate stuff than I do. So, I mean, but like I said, topic for a different show. So next week, no show because I have to go down to the Rio Grande Valley during the week. Actually, on Thursday and on Wednesday, there's a Dynamo game that I have to go cover. So, but I will be I will be doing something that I will be preparing for next week. That'll probably be uploaded as a premiere on the YouTube channel, or it'll probably be broadcasted live the next week. But keep up to date on what we're going to do to have a quick little discussion episode where I do want to get a lot of feedback from the fans. Probably open up the phone line as well. But that will probably be it for this season. And then we'll see what happens for the 2021 season. Ray, thank you so much for coming in today to talk with me about the roster. Appreciate all of your feedback. Guys, everybody who participated in the chat, Jordy, Mike, Santos, thank you so much for conversing with us throughout this show. You guys make the show go by quicker and a lot more fun with having the interaction with you guys. So really, I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys can tune in on the next time we do go live. But if you guys want to get notified, like I said, subscribe, click on the little bell icon so you'll get a notification when we do go live. Or, other way, you can always follow our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, @Down in the RGV, and we will let you know when we are going to have a show. Sloth, thank you so much. Says Matt, props to you guys for doing all this coverage. We do all we can, and we're working together as South Texas Border Sports and Down in the Valley. We're working hand in hand to bring the Toros the coverage that they do deserve. Because at the end of the day, this is also important for the fans of the Houston Dynamo, whether they want to believe it or not. So while we are part of the organization, we are important for them as well. And I just wish that they gave it that importance. And yes, I am also referring to Glenn Davis, who would rather have a San Antonio player on his show rather than an RGV player. But then again, that's just me kind of cannot bury that hatchet for now. But guys, thank you so much. Oh, you're going to love this one, Ray. So Jordy says, it's like with Bill O'Brien. He came to the Texans from a decent college team and a decent college program. I mean, it's...
No comment.
No comment.
Look. No comment.
Yeah, no comment. I'm not a Texans fan, so I don't know a lot about him. But the fact that Bill O'Brien drove everybody insane to the point that it was over. Like, his firing should have been done a long time ago. And it's surprising how they gave him a promotion to be a head coach and a general manager. I don't know how. And that's because I'm not a Texans fan. But anyway, guys, we'll see each other next time. Thank you all for tuning in. Oh, also, guys, share the show. If y'all can do me a huge favor, share the show on your social media. Recommend it to everybody, guys. Say like, oh, like we really appreciate the the input or the discussion of the roster, yada yada yada. You guys know. But share it on social media. Recommend it to everybody, every one of your followers. That's the only favor I'm asking you guys right now. We wish for the Down in the Valley to expand even further than it has right now. And like I said, thank you, Jordy, for and welcome to the Down in the Valley family. We appreciate you being here. Hope to see have more interactions with you in future episodes, especially in the 2021 season. There's a lot of things that I have planned for the 2021 season that I need to kind of finalize. But once it happens, we will let you all know. And so, guys, until next time, my name is Edson Ochoa. Don't forget to look for the podcast, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and Anchor.fm. And also check out our website, ditvpodcast.com. We'll see you guys on the next one. Be safe out there. Wear a mask. Be hydrated. And if anybody is watching from the Louisiana area, be safe out there. Follow the recommended guidelines from your local government. If you have to evacuate, do so, because tropical systems are not a force to be reckoned with, especially in an area that's already been hit hard by Hurricane Laura. My heart goes out for you all, and hopefully we as a community can kind of get together and help them in their time of need. Hopefully it doesn't become something serious, but if it does, hopefully the Down in the Valley family has got their back. We'll see each other next time. Take care. Hasta la próxima. Bye.